Good morning, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. It's Tuesday, July 29th, 2025, and this is your AM update.
The building's security camera footage shows the shooter enter the lobby, turn right, and immediately open fire.
A lone gunman opening fire in a Midtown Manhattan skyscraper, killing one police officer and 3 civilians. The shocking details.
If they had anything, why didn't they use it when I was killing Joe and then he gave out because he was 25 points down?
President Trump pushing back on the left's claims he's hiding damaging information relating to the Jeffrey Epstein story. And a look inside President Trump's handling of foreign leaders. Less diplomatic back-channeling, more late-night calls and texting. All that and more coming up in just a moment on your AM update. Since Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. But while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, they cannot fix your personal savings. You're going to be the one who has to do that. One of the best ways to look after your savings is through diversification, particularly with gold. From Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. That's amazing. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy some to store in your home safe. Just text MK to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold. There's no obligation, just useful information. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers, take control of your savings today. Text the letters MK to 989898. Early Monday evening, a gunman opening fire in a Midtown Manhattan skyscraper, killing one police officer and 3 civilians, leaving a 4th in critical condition before killing himself. The 44-story building, located between Park and Madison Avenues, just blocks away from St. Patrick's Cathedral and Rockefeller Center, home to the NFL, Blackstone, KPMG, Bank of America, and others, including Rudin Management. NYPD Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch Monday night providing a tragic update on the police officer who was killed.
But today, 4 innocent victims are dead. Among them is NYPD police officer Didarul Islam, 36 years old, 4 years on the job. Officer Islam was married with 2 young boys, and his wife is pregnant with their 3rd child. He's assigned to the 4-7 precinct in the Bronx. He was doing the job that we asked him to do. He put himself in harm's way. He made the ultimate sacrifice, shot in cold blood, wearing a uniform that stood for the promise that he made to this city. He died as he lived, a hero.
Authorities are withholding the names of the other victims until the families are notified. Consistent with Megyn Kelly Show policy, we do not name mass shooters on AM Update. The shooter here was identified by Commissioner Tisch as a 27-year-old black male from Las Vegas, Nevada.
The vehicle he exited is registered in Nevada. Inside of that vehicle, officers found a rifle case with rounds, a loaded revolver, ammunition, and magazines, a backpack, and medication. The vehicle was searched by our bomb squad and found to be clear of any explosives. The initial investigation shows vehicle traveled cross-country through Colorado on July 26th, then Nebraska and Iowa on July 27th, and then in Columbia, New Jersey as recently as 4:24 p.m. today. The vehicle entered New York City shortly thereafter.
Commissioner Tisch describing the rampage, noting the shooter had a license to carry a concealed weapon in Nevada, and in addition to the revolver found in his car, had an M4 rifle with which he conducted the shootings.
Surveillance video shows a male exit a double-parked black BMW on Park Avenue between 51st and 52nd Streets, carrying an M4 rifle in his right hand. He walks towards the building's entrance. That individual was seen exiting the BMW alone. The building's security camera footage shows the shooter enter the lobby, turn right, and immediately open fire on an NYPD officer. He then shoots a woman who took cover behind a pillar and proceeds through the lobby, spraying it with gunfire. He makes his way to the elevator bank, where he shoots a security guard who was taking cover behind the security desk. One additional male is shot in the lobby, per his own statement from the hospital. The shooter then calls the elevator, which opens in the lobby. A female exits that elevator, and he allows her to walk past him unharmed. He goes up to the 33rd floor, which is route and management, and begins to walk the floor, firing rounds as he traveled. One person was struck and killed on that floor. He then proceeds down a hallway and shoots himself in the chest.
The FBI deploying to the scene to assist the NYPD, initial checks to FBI databases not turning up any additional information about the shooter, a chilling photo circulating on social media showing one office space where workers piled a mountain of furniture across the entryway, barricading themselves in. Employees waiting hours as police methodically swept each floor before they could be released. Authorities believe the shooter acted alone. Beyond his, quote, documented mental health history, no motive has yet been identified. We'll have much more on this later today on The Megyn Kelly Show. President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance going on offense in separate public appearances, firing back at accusations from legacy media and Democrats suggesting the Trump DOJ is running cover for powerful figures and potentially even child sex abusers by not releasing the remainder of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Vice President Vance, speaking at a rally in Canton, Ohio, hitting back hard.
The president has been very clear he wants full transparency. He's asked that from the Attorney General, and I know, because I talk to her all the time, the Attorney General is hard at work on that issue right now. For 4 years, under Joe Biden's Department of Justice, the media didn't give a damn about the Epstein files or about the Epstein case. For 20 years, you had Obama and George W. Bush's Department of Justice go easy on this guy. They didn't fully investigate the case. They didn't show any curiosity about the case. And now Donald J. Trump is asking his Department of Justice to show full transparency. And somehow that's a criticism of Donald J. Trump and not Barack Obama and George W. Bush. Donald J. Trump, I'm telling you, he's got nothing to hide. His administration has got nothing to hide. He's going to keep on being an advocate for full transparency. But while we're focused on that case, Donald J. Trump is also worried about making sure these great workers get more take-home pay and better jobs, and that's the focus of the administration.
Meanwhile, President Trump, speaking from Scotland, shedding new light on his fallout with Jeffrey Epstein before the disgraced financier was convicted on 2 charges of solicitation of prostitution and solicitation of prostitution with a minor, which most people understand to be statutory rape, in a sweetheart deal cut in 2008.
For years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help, and I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that worked for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again, and I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island.
President Trump also questioning why, if there was any suggestion of wrongdoing tied to his name, the DOJ did not use it against him when they had the chance under the Biden administration, which indicted him twice in cases riddled with legal problems.
Those files were run by the worst scum on earth. They were run by Comey, they were run by Garland, they were run by Biden and all of the people that actually ran the government, including the auto pen. Those files were run for 4 years by those people. If they had anything, I assume they would have released it. The whole thing is a hoax. They ran the files. I was running against somebody that ran the files. If they had something, they would have released. Now, they can easily put something in the files that's a phony. Like, as an example, Christopher Steele, a person you know well, happens to be from your country. But Christopher Steele, as an example, wrote a book, a dossier. We call it the fake news dossier. And the whole thing was a fake. Those files were run by bad, sick people. If they had anything, why didn't they use it when I was killing Joe and then he gave out because he was 25 points down?
On Monday, Ghislaine Maxwell's legal team filing a petition with the Supreme Court to overturn her 2021 conviction and 20-year sentence for her role in the Epstein sexual abuse and as an abuser herself. Her attorneys arguing Jeffrey Epstein's 2008 non-prosecution agreement, often described as a sweetheart deal, should have shielded Maxwell from prosecution. According to that agreement, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Florida agreed not to, quote, institute any criminal charges against any potential co-conspirators of Epstein, including, but not limited to, 4 other associates. Maxwell was not one of the 4 named, but her legal team argues the deal extends broadly to all potential co-conspirators. The feds contending the agreement is only binding in the Southern District of Florida, where it was negotiated under then U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, and therefore is not binding in the Southern District of New York, where Maxwell was tried and convicted. The timeline on when and whether the Supreme Court will weigh in is not yet clear. Coming up, more from President Trump in Scotland, weighing in on everything from the war in Gaza to the ugliness of windmills, and a look at how President Trump is bucking traditional diplomatic channels. A lot of people worry about the online platforms and which one to trust for your general online news source, right? They don't know. Most of them are left and you can't trust them. Some are right, but you don't want to be manipulated against righties who hate Trump, for example. And this is where Ground News comes in. This is an important app you need to know about right now. Unlike other platforms amplifying or suppressing certain narratives to shape your worldview, this is an independent platform pulling in perspectives from across the political spectrum to show you the truth mainstream media will not, with more context than you will find in virtually any other place. I see your comments. I know you're worried about immigration, the economy, simply finding the truth missing from your online feeds. Well, Ground News is here to help. Right now, you can get 40% off their Vantage plan. That's $5 a month when you go to groundnews.com/Megyn. That's GROUND news.com/Megyn. Ground News helps you think freely and hold the powerful accountable. President Trump meeting with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer in Scotland on Monday at the Trump Turnberry Resort. The meeting coming on the heels of the Trump administration's latest trade breakthrough, the framework outlining a 15% tariff on imports from the EU, alongside an agreement from the EU to purchase $750 billion worth of American energy and to invest an additional $600 billion in America. There would be no reciprocal tariff by the EU on American goods. The deal coming just days ahead of the U.S.-imposed Friday deadline. President Trump referring to it as, quote, the biggest deal ever made. On Monday, Mr. Trump addressing several hot topics, including the latest on the trade deal negotiations with China.
They're meeting right now, and, we have a good relationship with China. But China's tough, and like you're tough, we're all tough. We're going to see what happens. We just concluded our deal with Japan. It's very good for everybody. We're making, great deals. We're making deals that are good for us, but we want them to be good for everybody. I'd love to see China open up their country. We're dealing with China right now, as we speak. Yeah, we're dealing with China right now.
President Trump also remarking on the latest efforts in bringing the war in Gaza to an end. Negotiations collapsing last week, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff accusing Hamas of not acting in good faith. Witkoff has been working to restore a ceasefire agreement, but dismissed Hamas's latest proposal as unserious, though the exact terms of the rejected offer have not been made public. President Trump weighing in on the stalled talks, suggesting Hamas's growing desperation is making them harder to deal with.
It's very difficult to deal with Hamas, as I said. We got a tremendous amount of hostages out, but it would take place in drips and drabs. You'd get 10, you get 5, you get 2, you'd get 10, 12. We get 12 one time. Many of them would come to the White House, and they were so thankful. But I always said, when you get down to the final 10 or 20, you're not going to be able to make a deal with these people because they use them as a shield. And when they give them up, they no longer have a shield. And the people of Israel feel so strongly about the hostages. Some people would take a different view, but they feel so strongly about the hostages. So that's an ongoing process. Hamas has become very difficult to deal with in the last couple of days because they don't want to give up these last 20, because they think as long as we have them, they have them, they have protection, but I don't think it can work that way. So I'm speaking to Bibi Netanyahu, and we are coming up with various plans.
Israel facing mounting pressure from the international community as disputed reports of mass starvation in Gaza continue to emerge. President Trump addressing U.S. efforts to deliver humanitarian aid to the region.
We want to get the children fed. We only hope the food goes to the people that need it, because so much, as you know, when you do something there, it gets taken by Hamas or somebody, but it gets taken. But we're prepared to help. I spoke yesterday with the president of the European Union, Ursula, who was terrific also on the subject, and she's going to play a big role also in helping us. So we have a good group of countries that are going to help with the humanitarian needs, which is food, sanitation, and some other things. We're going to set up food centers, and we're going to do it in conjunction with some very good people, and we're going to supply funds. And we just took in trillions of dollars. We got a lot of money, and we're going to spend a little money on some food, and other nations are joining us.
President Trump also railing against wind energy, the top form of electricity in the UK.
Wind is the most expensive form of energy, and it destroys the beauty of your fields and your plains and your waterways. When we go to Aberdeen, you'll see some of the ugliest windmills you've ever seen. They're the height of a 50-story building, and you can take 1,000 times more energy out of a hole in the ground this big. This big. It's called oil and gas, because the wind is intermittent. It doesn't work. It's extremely expensive. All the windmills are made in China. They say that the blades, which are carbon fiber, you can't bury. Oh, okay, you can't bury. What are you going to do? Dump them in the ocean someplace? Because they only last a certain period of time. And remember, a windmill has a life of 8 years, especially when they're out in the salty sea and they start to rot and to rust. I've restricted windmills in the United States because they also kill all your birds. You know, they wipe out. You know, it's interesting. If you shoot a bald eagle in the United States, they put you in jail for 5 years. And yet windmills knock out hundreds of them. They don't do anything. You've explained that. So it's a very expensive energy. It's a very ugly energy, and we won't allow it in the United States.
President Trump set to conclude the Scotland trip today. Over the weekend, Politico dropping a story shedding new light on President Trump's unique relationships with world leaders, revealing the personal touch the president brings to maintaining ties with other heads of state by handing out his personal cell phone number. From the piece, quote, 6 months into his second term, world leaders who want to remain in the president's good graces regularly call and text, sometimes to discuss matters of global import, sometimes just to schmooze. One source describing calls between President Trump and French President Emmanuel Macron as, quote, broing out, going on to say, quote, it was oddly amusing. Trump would say, Emmanuel, and really draw out the L. And then Macron would go, Donald, and draw out the D. All right, that's what I'm guessing it sounded like. And it sort of went back and forth. The informal chats appearing to pay off, fueling major progress on new trade deals. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer telling journalists in mid-May about a late-night call from Mr. Trump that sealed a tariff reduction agreement. This direct line of contact appearing to drive a steady stream of world leaders making their way to Washington. Earlier this month, the White House touting President Trump's 23 in-person meetings with foreign leaders, compared to just 13 under President Obama and 5 under President Biden in their first 6 months. The new reporting standing in sharp contrast to a moment outlined in the new book 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America. Co-author Tyler Pager describes reaching out to former President Biden via his cell phone in March to interview him for Pager's book. Pager says he was met with waves of panic from Biden aides, flooding him with texts and calls, quote, freaking out and demanding to know how he got the number. 2 days later, Pager says that number was disconnected. That'll do it for your AM update. I'm Megyn Kelly. Join me back here for the Megyn Kelly Show live on SiriusXM Triumph Channel 111 at noon East, on youtube.com/Megyn Kelly, and on all podcast platforms.